All right. Welcome back to the FantasyLabs Podcast. This is Bryan. It's Tuesday night, so that means I'm here with internet extraordinaire, YouTube extraordinaire, Jay. What's going on, man?
If by YouTube extraordinaire you mean I watch YouTube videos all day of random stuff, then
Yeah.
I do consider myself an extraordinaire.
Yeah, that's exactly what I meant.
Like how to cut an apple, I look at YouTube. I'm not even kidding. You never know what techniques are out there.
You can learn anything on YouTube, honestly.
Anything.
Yeah. I see you're sitting in the FantasyLabs.
Yeah, first time for you seeing the new lab. It was definitely perfect timing for the change with
what does it say? Because Boban was too what? Was too hipster. Wow. Because FantasyLabs, because Boban was too hipster. That is
true. I mean, he did really kind of get along that hipster line. He's like PBR beer and wearing beanies in the summer.
Yeah.
Just kind of falling in that path. So it was overdue, and here we are with the good old FantasyLabs now.
Who's been all right lately, huh?
Yeah. I expect tonight we're filming this Tuesday. The game hasn't started, I don't think, but
yeah,
I think
it's an exciting time for you.
Probably 33 FanDuel points is my guess.
If somehow Hazonia made it to the Spurs and ran a pick and roll with Boban, what would it in your world?
I still have Boban Labs, so I would just put both of them up.
Just both of them up.
Yeah. Boban, he can earn his way back. He's not in the dumps.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
He'll always have a place in my heart.
Yeah, he'll get there. When they unleash him in the finals or the Western Conference Finals again.
Yeah, he'll be back.
Yeah.
Definitely be back.
Cool. Let's run through the slate. We got 11 games. We've had a couple nice shorter slates, but back to the big ones. A bunch of teams on back-to-back. And tonight was a tough slate, and tonight being Tuesday with all the Steph news. So hopefully tomorrow I think could be a big slate, but at least, we'll have some news and be able to get some good action. So let's run through. We'll start with Charlotte, Philadelphia, and there's no line on this game. And I will kick it to you for news and injuries. And I think Charlotte's on a back-to-back here.
Yeah, Charlotte's playing right now. But yeah, on the Charlotte side, Spencer Hawes with a strained lower back was out for this game. We can expect him out for tomorrow as well. And then on the Philly side, we got Jalil Okafor questionable with a right shin contusion. And then Hollis Thompson questionable with an illness. So two actually pretty big injuries for that team.
Cool. So let's start on the Charlotte side. Obviously a great matchup here, and not necessarily a situation where you're really worried about back-to-back, right?
No, not too much at all, really. I think we've seen Kemba go big minutes lately here, 38 a game, 39 lately. So not too worried about that, and the matchup is just really prime. Not a lot of scoring really on Charlotte outside of Kemba and some pieces here and there. So I think Kemba definitely makes for a strong cash play, especially he's really cheap on DraftKings at
81.
Yeah, 81 and only 82 on FanDuel. So I'm fine with him in cash on both sides.
Yeah. Batum's pretty cheap as well on DK. He's playing big minutes. He played 39 against Atlanta. Didn't play well, didn't shoot well, but he's playing big minutes, and it's only 6'9" in the shooting guard spot on DK. So.
Yeah, definitely pretty solid. He's only 6,200 on FanDuel too. And he's been bad lately, but it's such a good matchup, especially for Batum's skill set.
Right.
Racking up all kinds of stats.
Yeah.
Hitting threes and steals and dishing some dimes where shots will just come easier. So yeah, I'm definitely fine with Batum and cash as well in this one, especially on FanDuel.
Cool. Any of these other guys, Charlotte, it's always just kind of those top two guys. Al Jefferson, I'm in a good matchup. Maybe he goes for 25 and dominates of old. That's probably a chasey play.
The minutes are just a concern. There's just a lack of upside. He would really, really have to go off like Hassan Whiteside style in limited minutes to make himself worth it. So I'm not really looking. I think Marvin Williams definitely has some upside in this game as well. So I would look at him, especially kind of getting a piece of this team. If you get off kind of Kemba and Batum, who would have higher ownership, maybe pivot to Marvin to get exposure. And I think he has pretty good chance of exceeding his projection in this one.
Yeah. Where's he on FanDuel? He's at 6K on DK.
Yeah, 6K on FanDuel as well. So
okay,
not bad.
Cool. Philly side, any of these guys interest you?
It definitely totally depends on the status of Ja and Hollis Thompson as well. So, I think Nerlens would be a great play again. I think Jeremy Grant at a very cheap price, if Ja is out and Jeremy Grant starts again, I think is a strong play, even in cash at his cheap price with, a large amount of minutes. I think I'm not as high on maybe Bob Covington if Hollis Thompson's out, just with kind of the Hornets defense and slow pace a little bit. So definitely not a great spot for the Sixers. It's not like they're playing Washington or anyone. So a little bit tougher for them. If we see Isaiah Cannon start at shooting guard, I don't mind him as a punt play if Hollis Thompson's out. We had Stauskas was on a 20-minute limit, but he played 32. So Kendall Marshall didn't enter the rotation, so you can't really count on that minutes limit there. So kind of caps Cannon upside a little bit if you realize Stauskas doesn't really have a limit there.
Yeah, unfortunately, all these like the backcourt outside of Ish doesn't really have any upside, and obviously they have a super low floor. So, I mean, Stauskas can get 45 minutes and still have a floor of 4 points.
Oh yeah, he's bad. I don't mind exposure to Ish. It's just kind of picked it up lately. Tournaments only though for him.
Yeah.
Really, the only cash I'd look at is mostly Jeremy Grant and Nerlens, possibly if Ja's out. If Ja's in, it's more of tournament plays scattered here and there.
All over. Yeah, Jeremy Grant's definitely the play. Interesting. So he's a power forward on FanDuel, small forward on DraftKings. So definitely something to remember. I think he's a fine play on either side. But I think both positions. Small forward has historically been pretty ugly, but this year power forward's been pretty ugly too. So
and DK I'd say is a better play if you want a piece of him. He's 4,700, and small forwards are harder to come by. So.
Yeah. I saw some people playing Rashawn Holmes as maybe the tournament play on, but obviously I think Jeremy Grant's the guy that you want. I wouldn't get cute with Holmes. So
I saw Holmes in some cash, which was very.
I saw Holmes in cash too.
Yeah. I get the kind of play for tournaments, but not for cash.
Yeah. Jeremy Grant's the guy for sure. Okay, let's keep on moving. Chicago at Orlando. Let's see what the line is here. 209 is the total, and Orlando's 3-point favorites coming off back-to-back. Any news and notes here?
Derrick Rose was probable for tonight with the right hamstring tendonitis, but he's playing, so we can assume he'll play.
All right, so both are back-to-back, yeah.
Back-to-back, yeah. So, I guess there's a small chance Rose could either sit or be limited if his hamstring flares up in tonight's game going into back-to-back traveling. So that's definitely possible. But as of now, we'll assume he's playing. And then on the Magic side, Evan Fournier was ruled out Tuesday with a sore wrist. So we can consider him probably questionable for this Magic game, possibly leaning doubtful. So I think you got to look at it both ways, though, for sure.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So this is a fairly tough game to analyze. Both teams are playing right now, and there's so many injuries that they could change some stuff. So, starting with Chicago, I guess kind of just the best we can do. And not a terrible spot really for either team. I think it's kind of a sneaky good matchup for both teams. Any cash options for you here?
Yeah, it's tough. I like this total. I like the close spread. With both teams on back-to-back and just kind of some of these later games we'll get into that have very appealing options, not really inclined to go guys in cash. Obviously, we've seen Powell playing really well, but with Rose back, changes a little bit from Powell's recent games here. So not really, nobody in cash. I think you can definitely have tournament exposure. Magic kind of get into some of these slugfests often. We've seen the Bulls defense deteriorate lately, especially. So, without Jimmy Butler. So I definitely think there's value. I just lean more for both teams on back-to-back in tournament format here.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good call. And you're right. There are some more appealing games later on. I would say that, just because of Chicago's struggles in their front court and especially on the glass, I think Vooch is probably pretty solid. Like
Oh yeah.
I don't mind him as a cash. Like if you're trying to pick a cash option, Powell's always got a pretty safe floor as well.
Yeah, I was speaking for just the Bulls side as tournament more so. But yeah,
Sure.
Magic, I think there's definitely value. I love attacking the Bulls front court. So yeah, I think Vooch is certainly a strong play unless
And
tonight's game goes to overtime or whatever.
yeah, and Gordon too for you.
Gordon, I'm
Yeah.
totally fine with. And then if Fournier's out again, I think Hazonia Lab deserves some consideration. I think Alfred Payton as a tournament play, I think is fine. Oladipo, even a strong cash play. Orlando's just kind of loaded right now with kind of strong plays in cash even too at some of these guys' prices with just the Fournier injury, which is crazy. But these starters are playing big minutes and they're soft price and exceeding their projections pretty much every game.
Yeah, I don't super love Alfred Payton really in any
That's fair, yeah.
format. He's just, I mean, he's kind of in that like 5-1. He's at 5K, 5-1. So it's almost like, pay up a little more for someone that has higher upside or, he doesn't really have a safe floor high up. So he's kind of in that no play zone. He's also just not really super appealing price.
Yeah, no, he hasn't been great. And, Depot's playing huge minutes, and Depot brings the ball up a lot. They got CJ Watson and Brandon Jennings getting good enough time. So I agree. That's why, maybe very small exposure in tournaments is all. But I think the other guys garner cash consideration, depending kind of on Fournier's status here.
Yeah. And then kind of bouncing back to Chicago before we move on. I mean, any of these guys interest you? Etuan Moore is a thing. I think
not for me with Rose back. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he's in that no play zone too, where he's no floor, no ceiling, not really interesting. Yeah, I mean, Rose kind of messes up just kind of the whole team. It kind of limits Powell's cash eligibility. So obviously, Powell is still a tournament option, but
for sure.
Just kind of kills. It kind of kills the floor of everyone, really.
Agree. And Etuan doesn't have the upside that I want really for him, especially on DraftKings as price. He's 5,400. So for cash with Rose back, you can't do that. You can't go Etuan and cash at 5,400 with Rose back.
Agreed. I mean, I think that potentially, Dunleavy and McDermott are both right at 4-3, and they're playing solid scoring.
Yeah, Dunleavy intrigues me a bit more than McDermott, and Dunleavy's kind of like a fringe cash play where you need salary relief there.
Yeah, he's been consistent since he's been back. He's like not a sexy play by any means, but
no, he's not. But
not bad. Yeah, and McDermott has been scoring.
Right.
Yeah.
You're just counting a lot on his scoring.
Yeah, so if he has an off night, then you're in trouble as far as just shooting the ball. So, tough to find really cash plays, especially with Rose back. Okay, let's keep on moving. Portland at Boston is the next game we'll hit on. And the total here is huge. 219. Boston is 5.5-point favorites. Any news and notes here? Or I think
nothing. Yeah, it's empty. So massive total for this game.
Yeah. Cool.
Blazers are on a back-to-back.
Yeah. So I guess that's a thing. Let's start with Portland. Man, this game's just so good. It's kind of a great game to load up on it, and the back-to-back, to be honest, for Portland, especially with the guys that we like to roster for Portland, which is pretty much Dame and McCollum. The back-to-back doesn't necessarily scare me.
Yeah, I agree. They're playing in New York tonight, so it's not like a crazy, flying from Portland to Boston overnight or whatnot. So it's not a very far trip for them after tonight. But at the same time, it's still a road back-to-back. I think Lillard's the guy you definitely want a piece of. I like Boston's team defense, but this total with that spread that, the Blazers implied total is incredibly high here. And, obviously Lillard's going to be a huge part of that. So I like him a lot. I think there are better cash plays at point guard on this slate, given, respective to price. So I'd consider Lillard more of a tournament play, especially getting a piece of this high total.
Yeah, I completely agree. The weird part is, and I think we discussed this in other pods before. You get a game with a really nice total, and then you're like, all right, man, I'm gonna load up on this team, and then it's like
It's tough. Yeah.
Yeah, like I feel pretty good about Dame. Like I get the back-to-back
Right.
and the price and just the big slate. If you don't want to go him in cash, I'm fine with it. Like I'm not going to judge anyone for going Dame in cash tomorrow.
No,
But then
no.
other than that, yeah, you're looking down. Like Column is pretty
I
up
don't.
and down lately.
Yeah, and I don't want him against Avery Bradley.
Yeah.
So we saw Avery Bradley on Rodney Hood last night and just crushed him. So yeah, it's tough. I mean, where are these points coming from for the Blazers? It's very scattered. Their front court, you just don't go any of these guys except McCollum and Dame. Really, a guy I'd look at in tournaments I don't mind is some Ed Davis, especially kind of against the Boston Celtics. I think he could get along the same lines the minutes that he's been seeing lately. That offers some pretty solid upside off the bench. He's had some pretty big games lately, so he's a guy I think to get a piece of this total on the Blazers team that not many people are looking at. Offers some unique tournament exposure here.
Yeah, really kind of the problem with both of these teams is that they're incredibly deep. I don't think people think of Portland as super deep, but they have like 7 or 8 guys who are like in the last couple games have gotten up to like 20 DK points.
Yeah, you look at kind of their bench scoring.
Henderson and Allen Crabbe and those guys.
Right.
Leonard's getting minutes. It's just.
And Crabbe and Henderson are just kind of strictly scorers, so they're not options. They're not strong options really because all they do is score. So you love them. It's really always Dame or McCollum, and I think with this total, you look at Dame more with a bit of an easier matchup than McCollum.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Other side, I think it's kind of a same thing. It's we see these high totals, and then it's Boston's just a really deep team, so it's hard to like load up on a guy like if we see the Thunder with like a 220 total, obviously that bodes well for Russ and KD, but it's kind of hard with with a deep team like this. So kind of the same deal for you as it always is with Isaiah being the strongest play, but even he's been a little up and down lately.
Yeah, I like the matchup against Lillard. I know kind of Portland's defense has been solid in the last month, really picked it up. But, this total, the pace that Boston plays at, I think will kind of break through Portland's stingy defense as of late. And I definitely like Isaiah a lot. I think on DK, he's got a price where I'm fine with in cash. His projected team total is massive for Boston, and this should be a close game for sure. So I like him. I like Jay Crowder, who's been playing really well and kind of has
Jay a lot tonight.
Floor, and kind of getting secondary stats, steals and some blocks and rebounds there. So I think he's pretty safe at a small forward position, and he's 6,400 on FanDuel. So it's not great, but I think it's fine given the implied team total here. And then I don't mind some Solly. I mean, I always like Solly exposure. Piece of him in tournaments. I always look for just kind of knowing his ceiling, and with Olynyk still sidelined, of course. So I think Evan Turner still has flashed some upside. So in this total as well, again, I don't mind him some exposure. So I kind of look. Yeah, I mean, I guess as this game, like you got Ed Davis, Solinger, Evan Turner, some kind of sneaky tournament plays with this high total, I'm fine with.
Yeah. Before we move on, I'll kind of touch on Boston. Did you read Zach Lowe's article today?
No, I haven't yet. I haven't had a chance.
Yeah, so he talked about it. He wrote it all on Portland, just how they're kind of surprisingly good this year. And in part of it, he mentioned their defense and how it's been so good lately. It's been top 10 defense, and it's
they did like a film sesh or something, and since then it's just been
so Stotts. Yeah, so he made a really simple switch, and he's just having all of his bigs just ice the pick and roll, just drop ice meaning that they just drop down as opposed to hedge on the perimeter. So they're just dropping back, and the guards are like trying to fight through the screens. Obviously, Dame and McCollum have their limitations there, but they're just dropping the bigs back and just kind of like saying like, hey, if you want to just shoot, like that's fine. And it's obviously better than just like hedging and then getting like a free roam at the basket. I do say that because I do think it's interesting because I think Isaiah could potentially torch them in that strategy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to like overanalyze Portland's team's defensive stats lately, which are really, really good. But at the same time, I've seen Dame play D, and I've seen the way Isaiah plays. So, I take Isaiah's offense over Dame's defense in this one.
Yeah, I guess my point is their new pick and roll scheme. I think Hurts the Boston's bigs a little more because
Right.
they either have to go out or if they have to roll into like three guys. I do think that it's potentially not that bad for Isaiah. Isaiah is kind of a pick and roll wizard anyway, and he'll kind of just like torch them from deep if they can't get around the screens and they're just going to drop back and not hedge him. He'll just kind of pull up. So maybe not cash, even though I think it's probably fine. But I do think that maybe some more exposure to like the perimeter guys on Boston is warranted if we're kind of just talking defense. So
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
For sure. Cool. Let's keep on moving. Utah at Toronto is the next game we'll hit on. 194 is the total. Toronto 6-point favorites. This is a kind of a slugfest. Two really good defenses, low total, especially compared to the game we just talked to. So fairly ugly, brutal game here.
Yeah, I completely agree. Two great defenses in Toronto, two slow pace. The Jazz are the slowest paced team, so not a lot of great things going on. Injury-wise, we got Trevor Booker's questionable with a personal issue, and then Kyle Lowry, who rested last game, we're definitely fully expecting back to play in this one. So really, I think, the only guy I'd want a piece of on the Jazz is Derek Favors. I think he can be the one who can exploit Toronto's team defense there, and especially if Trevor Booker sits out another game. We saw Trey Lyles play 24 minutes last game and actually put up a big line, 18 and 10, and in those minutes, but I don't see that happening again. Right. I think it'd be a little points chasey, but I don't mind, small exposure to him if Booker is out. But Favors is my favorite tournament play. I don't really like the matchup for anyone else. I think Shelvin Mack is not a cash game option in this one, especially against Lowry here. So, no more Shelvin Mack to play against the Raptors.
And he's not cheap anymore.
Right. Yeah, you can kind of forget about him. Gobert, I think this is just kind of a difficult spot. There's just going to be, less easy rebounds for him to get. I think maybe second favorite tournament play if you want to get a piece of the Jazz. But pretty much for me, it's just, Favors exposure and possibly some Lyles exposure in tournaments if Booker's out.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I will be a little more confident in Favors. I'm actually okay with him in cash. Like, I get the really bad total and I get all that stuff, but Utah is always a bad total. And Favors has been really good lately, kind of against everyone. Like, he had a really good game against the Spurs a couple games ago.
Yeah, I mean, we love Favors more than anyone. So, like, we're probably more fine with him in cash, but I think there are probably some other options to go.
There are,
saving
Sure, yeah. But I mean, his price at 7.5, kind of with his floor and with how he's played well, just kind of recent play and how good he's playing, and the fact that I think he's fairly matchup proof talent wise.
I agree.
I'm fine with it. Yeah,
he's a cash option on paper, but when you really break the slate down, you're kind of unlikely to play him in cash in this game.
Sure. Okay, that's fair. I'm actually okay with Gobert. He's 6'8" on DK, especially on DK, where we've talked we're seeing super underpriced. I mean, he's got a lead upside in any matchup at 6'8". I don't mind. I don't mind paying that price for some tournament exposure. Toronto side, kind of the same deal, just kind of a tough matchup, or you don't mind some Lowry, DeRozan.
I don't mind some Lowry coming off a rested game in tournaments. The way he's been playing, it's been.
He dropped 70 last time.
Yeah, it's been pretty ridiculous. So I definitely don't mind having a piece of him, and I think his ownership after a 70-point game and a rested last game will be lower than you'd think, just because the Jazz have a really solid defense. So
and the slate's so big, right?
Yeah, so like not going him in cash, even though he's 8,400 on DK, which is probably underpriced for sure. But just with the matchup, limit him to tournaments, and then really nobody else. DeRozan's kind of the other tournament type player on this team, but I don't want much exposure to him. And then Valanciunas against Gobert, I don't like. Patrick Patterson possibly off the bench, depending if he can get 25 plus minutes, but. Overall, it's kind of I'm kind of fading them, especially in cash.
Right. Yeah, I think Lowry's the play. He's kind of like Favors for me, where like I don't mind cash. You're right. Wow. He may be a paper cash play, but on the slate you don't play him. I do think you need to have some tournament exposure too, because I do think you get a really nice ownership discount, and he's not that expensive salary wise either. So
Agreed.
actually really love Lowry and Favors as tournament plays tomorrow.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree. They'll go under owned for sure.
Yeah, but you're right. The rest of it, DeRozan's been kind of not playing as well lately, and we usually don't like to play guys against the Utah front court. So JV, those guys aren't super interesting. So kind of the top guys, as exciting or not exciting that is. Detroit, San Antonio is the next game we'll hit on. And the total here is 200.5, and Spurs are 10.5 point favorites. You got any news and notes on this one?
News for the Pistons: Stanley Johnson with that shoulder injury is doubtful to return from that injury in this one. And then on the Spurs side, huge injury news: Matt Bonner is probable with a calf strain.
Oh wow!
Kind of shakes the whole rest of the season in DFS perspective.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah, I probably need to go back and re-research everything.
No, yeah, for sure. I
feel very unprepared now.
When I saw probable, I did a double take, and I was like, no way. But it's true. So
this popped there.
Something to monitor, yeah.
Unleash the water.
Right. On the Pistons side, though, I'm not looking at anyone. They run, big minutes. It's kind of really hard to pinpoint if one of these guys will kind of go off. Obviously, I don't want any of them in cash, and then even tournament-wise, it's tough to get a guy who will just kind of go off against the Spurs. I think Reggie Jackson has a very cheap price. I could see him having a big game if this game stays close.
Right.
I don't like the matchup, obviously, for Andre Drummond. Don't like the matchup for Tobias Harris. Don't like the matchup for Marcus Morris. It's really you just pick 1 through 5, and Spurs defense in San Antonio. So I'm kind of just off Detroit.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, with the mantra all year long has been don't play guys against San Antonio. I will say that I'm actually kind of okay with Drummond. I mean, he's 7 on DK.
Yeah, and Reggie's only 6'6", so I don't mind. I mean, it's the two best
points this year. He was 10K plus, yeah. Mm-hmm. So just that fact, we've seen that when guys have this much of a salary dip, especially guys with the talent like Drummond and Reggie, that is very predictive of eventually they're going to get back up to probably where they should be priced. I think they're very underpriced. They may be closer to being appropriate price for this matchup, but I do think the upside's still there. So I
agree.
I don't mind Drummond. We've had some YouTube comments lately that says that they want you and me to disagree a little bit more. Apparently,
yeah, that's true. I did read that comment. Yeah. I'll find stuff to disagree. I'm not worried about disagreeing.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to disagree with you. I'm trying to say I like Drummond.
Well, I was just going to counter and say I like him too because Pop could employ to hack a Drummond.
Okay, then I don't like Drummond anymore. Just make up your mind. I'll take the other one.
Okay, yeah, I do not like Drummond, but I can see the upside at a soft price and a possible hack a Drummond by Pop. But overall, do not like.
Okay.
So you like him?
I do like him. Yeah, I love him. Yeah.
Top play.
Yeah. And Bonner. Yeah. San Antonio said, other than Bonner, any of these guys interest you?
I still got some appeal for Kawhi for sure. He's still soft price, 7,700 on DK, and where's that? He is 8K on FanDuel now, so a little bit. I think he was cheaper than that last time, but definitely small forward. If you can't pay up for some of the big dogs, Durant or whatever, Kawhi's a lot cheaper and still has a very high floor. So I wouldn't mind him in this game. I like the spot. It's a 10-point spread, so I expect him to play the fourth quarter. If they're up 10 going into the fourth, he'll still be in. So I like his floor here, and I wouldn't mind him going him in cash if you kind of fall into that spot where you can afford 8K at small forward. You can't really afford Durant, for example. So.
Yeah, and 7.7 on DK. Yeah, I not only don't mind him, I think he's one of the best cash options.
The problem is Durant's just in such a juicy game that you're going to want to try pretty hard to get him in there.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, you're right. If you can't, I think Kawhi, is a nice consolation. And any of these other guys interest you?
I could do some Aldridge tournament exposure. I think this is a mismatch here. So
and 6'9", he's pretty underpriced for his ceiling. So
yeah, I like the matchup for him, and we've kind of seen him flash some upside lately. So they're all healthy, which doesn't help, but it also drives ownership down. So you'd get Aldridge at a very discounted price relative to ownership. So I kind of like this spot for him. I wouldn't mind a tournament exposure.
Yeah, agreed. I do think it's interesting. Like if you're looking at our models, like maybe Aldridge is appropriately priced for his his median projection.
Yeah.
You could also we have floor and ceiling projections. We don't have like $1 per ceiling point, but I think it is kind of useful to maybe think about it that way, because the guys are could be priced appropriately for their median projection and even their floor projection, but pretty underpriced for their ceiling projection.
No, exactly. That's a great point. I think Aldridge has that ceiling where he's not really priced up to his ceiling, which is good for us to take advantage.
Right. Yeah. So always good to remember, kind of depending on your game contest, where they priced. Are they appropriately priced? But if so, are they priced based on their floor, their ceiling, or their median projection? Yeah, definitely something to remember. And that's kind of it for me on San Antonio's side. Same for you.
Yep, that's it.
All right. Indy Milwaukee is the next game we'll hit on. 202.5. Indiana's 2-point favorites here. So a fairly, not an awful total. I mean, it's about.
I thought it would be higher for sure. I was surprised this one, glancing at it with Milwaukee's bad defense, and
I thought it would be higher too.
So kind of lean on the
and a close spread as well.
Yeah.
Cool. So any news and notes in this game?
Yeah, we got CJ Miles questionable with a strained left calf on the Pacers side. On the Bucks side, we saw Michael Carter-Williams be a very late scratch last game with patella tendonitis. So he's questionable to play in this one. And then John Henson with that sore lower back that's kept him out. He's unlikely to play. So kind of same as usual, but MC Dub throws a little bit of a wrinkle and things.
Cool. Indy side, let's hit on them real quick. PG is at 8-6. He has a interesting matchup here, I think. Milwaukee's been bad. I think some of their individual wing defenders are okay. So I think it's kind of a tough matchup to evaluate. But the spread in this game is just kind of hard to get a read on. How do you feel about these Indy guys?
Yeah, it's tough. We saw Milwaukee just double James Harden a lot, and I think they'll try to employ that same tactic against the Pacers, just kind of knowing Paul George is their main kind of offensive scorer there outside of Monte, of course, too. Miles Turner getting a few more shots here and there, but I think Paul George at that price is fine, but kind of same falls along lines with Kawhi, where I think you're going to want to get Durant in this one quite a bit, so he kind of falls back as a secondary play, maybe a tournament play. On FanDuel, maybe you start 2 small forwards. You can explore him in cash, but overall, I'm still hurting a lot from his game against Portland.
Yeah.
He's just played so well, but that just speaks to Portland's defense lately. They've really done a good job limiting guys, so it's not all. And I think tonight, we have Melo. I mean, last I saw, Melo had -1, like almost through the first quarter. So Portland's D has kind of been shutting some of these guys down.
They've just been icing and letting them.
No, you're right. So that said, though, I like Paul George. He has been playing well overall. So I definitely want some Paul George exposure, whether mostly will be tournament exposure. I don't think he's a necessity in cash. I do think this total is a little too low. So kind of like getting some Paul George shares. Other than that, I don't know what's you looking at.
There's no one, dude. Like they're all like
Monte. Was Monte even in Milwaukee long enough to have a revenge game?
No, maybe. But I mean, you're right. It's PG. He's priced up a little bit, and I think it's. I can understand Kawhi just a little bit. I like Kawhi more than PG. He's kind of independent of pricing. Like if they're the same price, I would still take Kawhi.
We'll disagree just to please that one YouTube commenter. They've run our our pods.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
dictate everything. So
Yeah.
I think I will lean Paul George over Kawhi.
Okay. And then when you factor in
Just-
pricing, does it
Just
change?
raw points. Just
Yeah.
raw points. I think.
Yeah.
Pricing, I think, get Kawhi for sure.
Yeah, I think it just makes a lot of sense. You're right. Either go up to KD or go down to Kawhi. So PG is hard to play. And then Indy, there's no one else. Like Monte has been playing okay lately, but one doesn't super excite me. Miles Turner, hasn't been getting a high ton of usage lately. And then none of these guys.
He's not offering too much upside or consistency, really.
Yeah, George Hill. None of these guys are super interesting.
I like the spot for Mahimi theoretically.
Right.
It's kind of hard to go him in either format here, especially cash. So I could see some Monte tournament exposure in this one, though. I think I'm fine with.
Yeah, I'm not really looking at any indie guys. Paul George is fine in tournaments, but I'm not going any other indie guys. I get the matchups okay, and Milwaukee has been prone to bad defense at times, often even. But I just think that it's too hard to kind of pinpoint where the points are going to come from, and there's a good chance that it'll just be spread out, not really anyone. Milwaukee side, man, the guy that has just been killing me lately because I can't pick his games is Giannis.
It's every game, huh? Yeah, I mean he's killing it every game. He's absurd right now. He's just absolutely smashing. Yeah,
he's that point guard right now.
And we all knew this was kind of his ceiling, right? Like this, he's been like this for a while. I mean, a lot of
he's still like 19.
Yeah, I think he's 21 now.
Yeah. But still ridiculously young is my point.
Yeah, for sure. And this is what we've wanted from Giannis for a while. We just want these minutes to stabilize, and now here he is in stabilized minutes. With the lineup switch with MC Dub and Monroe off the bench, it's kind of these 2 through 4 guys. Middleton, Giannis, and Jabari just playing huge minutes, and Giannis is doing everything. I mean, OJ Mayo's on the court with those guys. What's he gonna do? He's garbage. He's awful. So it gives Giannis more of a chance to, flash his overall skill set, which is everything. So
I think important for him is that he's been really good as a playmaker lately.
Exactly. Yeah, those assists are huge. He's rebounding well, especially with Plumlee on the court. So, I don't love the matchup for these guys. I definitely love targeting all 3 of these Bucks guys, Middleton, Giannis, and Jabari, on most nights. It's rare when I'll probably say they aren't cash plays, but I do think Indy has a good overall defense, which kind of is shown in this total being only 202, where you'd think it'd be higher. So
I'm worrisome for sure.
Yeah, I'm fine. I am fine with Giannis, though. Still, I think he's the safest out of the 3, just kind of the way he's being utilized right now. I still like Jabari a lot, of course, but I think it's a tougher matchup for Jabari, especially compared to the previous few he's had.
I still think he's so underpriced.
Exactly. So on FanDuel, I think Jabari is totally fine because they're very, very slow on upping the Jabari. He's 6K on FanDuel, Jabari, so I still like him a lot there. Giannis is more expensive on FanDuel, so if you're going to go him in cash, it's kind of like him or Kawhi, and it's tough on DK where they're similarly priced. And again, it's just kind of the same thing. So you have Paul George, you have Kawhi, you have Giannis that are like 2K less than Durant, not more. So
let's see if you can get up to Durant. I still like Kawhi a lot. I like him better than
Giannis.
Yeah, I do. I think I like Giannis better in tournaments, but I like Kawhi better in cash.
That's fair.
I think Giannis is a higher ceiling than Kawhi.
Oh yeah, for sure. Giannis, he has 70 ceiling.
Yeah, but I assume PG is going to guard Giannis.
Yeah, but Giannis he just does so much. He's rebounding. He's getting steals, blocks, assists. He's facilitating on the court. Running the court, basically running the offense. I think he's very, very safe. And
he's the Eastern Conference Draymond.
Yeah, and much better scorer though. But yeah, it'll be tough. I think I wouldn't let I would almost kind of let pricing dictate it. Honestly,
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Like I wouldn't force Paul George in. I wouldn't pass these guys. up to get Paul George in cash.
Yeah.
I'd settle for Kawhi or Giannis.
Right.
Spend that extra salary elsewhere, really.
Yep.
And I think this is a strong option. I think this is a decision you'll have to make whether to go Durant or not, or possibly go both, where you'd have to save it pretty much most other, especially in DK, you'd have to save it every other position. But
yeah. I'm usually a one cash lineup guy, but I think this might be a slate where, like, if you want to split your action 50-50 and go one with KD and one Kawhi.
I've actually been doing that lately, and I don't like the hedge, but I find myself exactly doing that. Like, half a lineup with Durant or half my lineups with Durant, half other. But this might turn into a slate where you do that because you have really solid guys at small forward that are a lot cheaper than Durant.
Yeah. Cool. So we love a lot of those Milwaukee guys, obviously.
And then before we move on, if Michael Carter-Williams is out again, I like definitely Jared Bayless in tournament exposure as usual.
Yeah, of course. Okay. Next game we'll hit on is New Orleans at Houston, and I don't have a line here. Refreshing. Yeah, still no line as of when we're potting. So I'll kick to you for news and note. We'll do our best without any line, which I assume will be high.
Should be very, very high. So, we got some games that are really good, and we haven't even touched on probably the best one. Well, God, there are a lot of good games on this slate.
Yeah.
On the Pelican side, we got
what's coming up.
Yeah. Omer Ashik is out one more week with a sprained right ankle, and then Anthony Davis with that huge injury to his sprained right toe. Is listed as questionable, but Alvin Gentry expects him to play. I wouldn't really consider him playing because he's Anthony Davis, so I think I'd be hesitant on the Gentry expecting him to play. I'd be more certain on the questionable tag. So I think you want to go into this game with a plan for each way. So meaning you make a lineup possibly with Ryan Anderson, you make a lineup, assuming Brow plays. I think it's important to kind of have each side covered for when the news comes out. You kind of look and go, okay, here's what I do. So what would you do? If Anthony Davis is out, I think definitely
Rhino.
Rhino is just a crazy strong play. He's been great. Playing the Rockets, I love.
He should be your first person you enter into your cash game lineup if Brow's out.
I agree. I can't argue with that. Sorry, YouTube commenter. If Anthony Davis plays, which Alvin Gentry expects him to, I still like Ryan Anderson a lot in tournaments. For sure. A ton, especially Anthony Davis coming off a toe injury, could get kicked, or I don't even know. He could stub it walking up to pregame warmups. You never know.
And his ownership will be low because people will be really focused on the Davis line, the news. So having the Ryan Anderson. Just having the Davis news in their heads are going to have Ryan Anderson in their heads. So they're going to say, okay, well, if Davis is in, then I just got to get off Ryan Anderson. Whereas actually might be an okay play by himself, but they're just going to naturally get off of him more than they would if Davis didn't have any news at all. So I think maybe a little lower on than he should.
And then we got to talk about if Anthony Davis plays. I want Anthony Davis exposure.
You have to. Right? Yeah, against Houston. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wouldn't overlook that aspect.
Yeah, and then the other guy I think that we could potentially look at is Drew, who's been really solid lately. I think he's kind of in an interesting matchup where he's 7'8", so he's priced up. He's been. Sorry. Excuse me. He's been solid, so he's been safe. His ceiling hasn't been crazy high, but his floor has been solid. So,
he's kind of had some bad luck. We had a garbage foul called on him. I think was it last game? Maybe 2 games ago. One of the last 2 games, they got in foul trouble in the first half. That was just brutal. But when he's on the court, his usage is just absolutely insane. I'm fine with him in cash. This total is definitely going to be high when it comes out. So I'm okay with him in cash.
Yeah, me too.
Sure. I think that's fine. I think it's a great spot for him, of course. So he's fine. And then Ryan Anderson in cash if Anthony Davis is out, and both Ryan Anderson and Anthony Davis in tournament. The other guy we got to talk about, what do you do with Eric Gordon if Anthony Davis plays?
I mean, like, interesting in tournaments for sure. I don't think I would have the stones to go in the cash.
It's tough. Yeah, it's interesting. We haven't really seen the team with with Drew's usage, Anthony Davis's usage, and Eric Gordon based on this one game, lately, kind of with this team. So it's tough. If Anthony Davis is out, I'm fine with 5,300 on FanDuel, or you got to start 2 against the Rockets. I'm okay with Eric Gordon, but generally speaking, I think of him more as a tourney play, kind of regardless of Anthony Davis' status here. I don't mind exposure to him though, either way. In tournaments.
Yeah, and he's a shooting guard. Like, I can't disagree with that. It worries me in general, but like I get the play for sure.
Yeah, and then Ajinça, I just want to say from personal experience, going him in half my cash lineups. Thank goodness I hedged, but one of the worst games I've ever seen. So that was an example. I went Durant and went cheap at center. Which was unfortunately Ajinça, and he got benched for Kendrick Perkins, which I don't even know what that's equivalent to. I've never seen anything more humiliating than being benched for Kendrick Perkins. There is no equivalent, really.
There's nothing. Yeah, that's the lowest of the low.
Yep, that's the absolute. And obviously, Perkins just got torched on defense. No surprise, but. To his credit, I get Ajinça did play horrible, so I understand the benching. He wasn't hustling.
Is that what Perkins' role is? Like, he's there just for shaming?
Yeah, I think so. Actually, I think that kind of sums up.
So he could have a career into his 50s. Because he's be good. He just has to be there just to shame people. Be like,
oh, he dunked on Perkins. Who cares? Cool. Congrats, man. You're going to get waived next week or something, probably. But you don't Perkins.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will it's a cautionary, warning. Don't play Ajinça in cash. We saw his floor. So.
Yep.
And you only do that if Anthony Davis is out, of course. But just don't do it.
Don't do it at all. Don't do it. Okay, Houston side. So yes, we obviously think it's going to be a high total game. James Harden, obviously. Great matchup here. Dwight Howard playing well. It's really underpriced. I think at 7.6, especially relative to a ceiling. I can understand that if you want to go elsewhere in cash, but I think some interesting plays here on Houston side as well. Where you stand?
Yeah, Dwight on DK. I think you just kind of throw him in there. I did it last time. Against Milwaukee, he was 7,300. He's 76 now, which is still really underpriced.
So low,
he looked good last game too, really, really good. And with this total for sure going to be really high. I am completely fine with Dwight in cash on DraftKings. On FanDuel, it's a little different. Even on DK you can start 2 centers. On FanDuel you're limited to 1. So I'm fine with him there still in cash. He's 8,100, so I still kind of even think that's underpriced, but I think you can explore other options at least at this position. But I wouldn't mind settling on Dwight. And then Harden, definitely strong cash play. Of course, it's just gonna be a little bit difficult to fit him in with some of these other good options.
Yeah, that's the problem is, there's some high price options that we want to get in. If you want to get in Durant, especially on DK where their pricing is so tough.
It's so strict. It's crazy. I mean, you can get one of these guys.
Yeah.
FanDuel, you can get 3 if there are some cheap guys opened up, but definitely 2. I mean, you need it at least 2 on FanDuel. But DK, you've really got to pick your spots carefully. DK, I think. Then you go into it's kind of what we want as players. We want more skill. I don't like playing FanDuel when there's a ton of overlap every night because it's so easy to make a lineup. So DK, it definitely exerts more skill, more time into your lineup, kind of piecing together a puzzle. You could say you could compare a bunch of 2-for-2s. What do I get if I go cheap at shooting guard and fade Harden? What do I get if I play Harden? It's more, you just got to figure it out and put in these lineups to see. I wouldn't really FanDuel. Sometimes you just throw people in like, okay, I'm going this guy because he's cheap and I have a ton of salary left over. But DraftKings is definitely a lot different than that, and it makes it a lot tougher.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with everything you said. Sorry, YouTube commenter. You're right. I think Dwight Howard's easy cash, great tournaments. James Harden, I think is interesting more in tournaments because of what we just talked about, just kind of the pricing. I also think Trevor Reeves is really interesting in tournaments. He exploded last.
Yeah, me, John, and Justin talked about Reeves on the last pod, Justin specifically, and how it kind of set up as a perfect game for Reeves' skill set and transition, 3-pointers, turnovers. And I think this, again, sets up as a nice spot for him, knocking down open threes against the Pelicans' bad defense. So I definitely love tournament exposure with the Reeves again.
Cool. Anyone else for Houston? I mean, for me, it's just kind of those top three.
Yeah, the only other guy really is Beverly, just because his price kind of hangs low, but I don't trust him enough in cash, and I kind of question his upside in tournaments. So it's kind of a tough spot.
Yeah. No play zone. All right. Okay, let's keep on moving. Sacramento, Memphis is the next game we hit on, and I don't have a line, so I'll kick to you for news.
Yeah, so on the I don't even want to talk about Sacramento side with their news debacle from
last night. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Boogie was also mad at the news because he almost decked Steven Adams. Did you see that line?
Oh, I saw that. I was watching it. Yeah, I was watching it. That was that was crazy. Like, before he even did his kick, I was like, he's gonna kill Adam.
Yeah.
Like a straight up soccer, free kick. Luckily missed, but I mean, I was like, whoa, Boogie.
I was proud of Boogie. To be fair, Adams, that was.
Yeah, I was just saying, Adams is like that. He's like a bogut, kind of cheap. Likes to get under other centers' skins.
Yeah.
They're not really the centers that are Boogie offensively, so they kind of got to do what they got to do.
Yeah.
King's injuries, though, that was just
tough.
The worst. I think Jason Jones said in a tweet, no Rondo, no Gay, no Curry. It's like very simple to interpret. Okay, they're all out. And then you get a Kings official tweet like 30 seconds later saying Rondo's questionable. And then you got all kinds of doubtful, questionable. Is Gay playing? Like, nobody knew where Rudy Gay was. Like, I don't see him in the arena, even though I just ruled him out, but there's a possibility he could play. And then Seth Curry, which it doesn't matter that much. But the Rondo news, he hit for the cycle. He's Adrian Beltre. He actually went for the cycle in this one. Who knows what the injury report is? It's pointless to even bother stating it at this moment. As of now, I mean, Rudy Gay sat out last game. We can consider him questionable with a strained right shoulder, but who knows? Seth Curry, sprained right foot, questionable. I'm sure Rondo will. I'd almost guarantee he'll be on the injury report. Probably listed as probable as my guess with that toe. But, again, it's going to be kind of a thing you want to monitor all day because they're insane with their news. So it was a nightmare. It was brutal.
Yeah. I'm kind of mad at both teams, honestly, because I had Conley and Cash last night, and he sucked. And
I had him too. I share your pain. Yeah.
I had DC, Darren Collison, and Conley and Cash, and then that ended up screwing me because Rondo ended up playing and Conley ended up sucking. So this game, I'm just mad at both of them, honestly.
You thought Conley would hit more than 2 shots against the Nuggets? I mean,
I did.
Pretty foolish.
Yeah, it was. It was a mistake on my part, honestly.
The thing with Collison was, I mean, on FanDuel, obviously, there's nothing you can do.
Right.
Most people had him. DK, you could pivot off Collison, but he's still in a good spot. He's still going to get his minutes. He's not like a type of player where the starter plays. He's a total bust. He plays him too. He can play on the court with Rondo, and obviously the backup point with Curry out as well. So it was more just a hassle than anything. Not necessarily affecting too much, but
and you weren't killed by Collison because everyone had him. So Conley is what killed me more than Collison, just because a lot of people had Russ.
So let's talk about plays here on the Kings, though. With with the Grizzlies front court being thin, they haven't signed anyone. They still have. I mean, they're rolling out Birdman and JaMychal Green. So Boogie. I mean, this is just another really expensive play. Who I don't mind the spot.
I don't mind the spot either, and I actually think it's a really good spot because people are going to see the DVP or whatever the DraftKings has, and opponent rank here sits second. It's a bad red color, but
I'm looking at
Gasol's Gasol's not playing. Like,
who's going to stop him?
No one, yeah. So I think Boogie's great play.
Yeah,
DK, like kind of like the Harden thing. Like I think we prefer KD more than Boogie and Harden, and you could probably only get one. But I do think Cousins is a great play in tournaments.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he's an amazing play in tournaments. And I will say real quick, he did kind of with his ankle, he injured it once, went to the locker room, came back, and kind of injured it again right away. I mean, he's falling apart. So that's something I think to keep in mind if you're considering him strongly in cash, that Memphis is physical, kind of Zebo down low as well, who will match up with them a bit. So I wouldn't, feel super comfortable going him in cash, but as a tournament play, I think it's very, very strong given the Memphis front court being very thin. And speaking of Memphis, real quick, I'll go through the injuries. Tony Allen, who we saw, these two teams are perfect to play against users because Memphis has probably the worst beat writers in the league as far as giving us injury news. I mean, we get like the Nuggets beat writers tweeted out Memphis's lineup, twice before we got any Memphis guy even saying anything about who's starting. Brandon Wright's out. Like, is Tony Allen even out? I mean, they don't even rule him out. They're just like, he might play. I don't know. Who knows?
I'm not there.
You check in the third quarter, no Tony Allen minutes. So it's like, well, what's going on? But Brandon Wright for sure should be out 4 to 6 weeks. And then Tony Allen with a sore left knee, doubtful / like dead. I don't even know. He's alive. These guys don't. No beat writers in this game know where any of the players are. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure there are beat writers other than Jason, who has no clue what's going on.
Well, I showed you some of Jason Jones was hating on us DFS players.
I know. Which is why I can hate on him because he doesn't know what he's doing because he's obviously not going to listen to this podcast.
Yeah, that's true. We're so safe right now. I mean, I hate Jason Jones, man.
Yeah, what did he tweet? He said, "I don't care about your fantasy lineups."
It's like, dude, who do you think is asking you questions about starting lineups? Why would we?
90% of your followers right now are DFS players.
Who cares about the Kings, man? Like, you're the Kings, You guys aren't going anywhere anytime soon.
The only people that were fretting over Rondo and Darren Collison's status was degenerate DFS players like us.
Yeah, nobody else cares. So it's like, who would ever care about a Jason Jones tweet saying Rondo's questionable and then 10 minutes later saying he's doubtful and then out? Like, nobody cares except everybody who's following you. So like, that's kind of a thing where kind of look at your audience, I guess, a little bit. But it's neither here nor there. We don't need to get into that. It's all good.
Here and there.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be good. I know there's gonna be a YouTube commenter, man. I'm scared. I'm terrified. Maybe he does seem like a YouTube commenter guy to even engage in that type of stuff. Like, be a professional. I'm not professional, but I'll admit it. So
no, I'm just waiting for someone to make a Jason Jones like parody on YouTube and just to comment.
Yeah,
it could happen.
I don't put anything past people, especially on YouTube. So I'm willing to believe anything. But anybody else?
Yeah, let's talk basketball. For Sacramento.
Yeah. Anybody else? I mean, let's go through if Rudy Gay's out. We saw James Anderson start, obviously, because he needed to be more of a defensive presence, match up with Durant a bit. So I wasn't too surprised to see Caspi come off the bench. I obviously would have preferred him to start. He only played 25 minutes and he ended up decent. He got some garbage time points for sure, but he was struggling at halftime. Would you be willing to go back to
him?
I am. Yeah.
I am if Gay's out.
Okay,
I think it's fringe. I don't think it's a great play. I don't think I will end up playing him. But if I'm
going to limit it if he starts or not. If he doesn't start, I don't want him. If he does, I'm fine with him. And honestly, in this game, I can see him starting. I don't think they'll need to start James Anderson in this one. So I would expect Caspi to start, and he'd be a fine play for me. If Rudy Gay's out. So
fair. Memphis side, the only guy I'm interested in. I think
the only? There's only one?
Yeah. I know it's Sacramento. I get it. So Conley, I'm just mad at right now. So I will admit that
you gotta get over it. He burned me too, but I mean,
so Conley, like on paper, is okay. Zebo, I don't want any part of actually because of Boogie in the foul trouble. Boogie just gets everyone in foul trouble. It's just like it happens every single game now. So I'm just
I'm fine with Zebo and Conley.
in cash.
Yeah. Zebo's 6,600 on FanDuel. I'm fine with.
I'm fine with Matt Barnes.
Yeah, I am too. This Kings defense is just the absolute worst. I mean, we saw how easy it was to score. I think, what was it? We saw Cantor shoot 11 for 11 against him. We saw Deion Waiters go like 8 for 10. I think that speaks volumes about a defense when Deion Waiters can have a huge game. So, I'm fine getting a piece of these. This slate for cash, I think you could like have every position, every spot filled with a guy who has a really easy matchup and a very high team total. So I think it's kind of a slate that plays out like that. You can get exposure to Conley, Barnes, Zebo, not necessarily in the same lineup because there's so many other options, but I'm fine with going one of those guys in cash.
Yeah. I like Barnes in cash a lot. I'm mad at Conley, but I'm okay with it. I guess I will say that I don't love Zebo in cash. He's
that's fair, yeah.
7K on DK.
Yeah, cheaper on FanDuel, and Conley's 6,800 on FanDuel. I'm totally fine with that going against Rondo.
Yeah, that's fine. So maybe there's just more FanDuel plays than DK plays. They're just priced up, and the Zebo thing, particularly with Boogie, worries me. But the other two I'm fine, really on both sides. But maybe get you more of your exposure on FanDuel. Let's keep on moving. We got 3 more games left. Washington, Minnesota is the next game. High total, 220. Washington's 4-point favorites. Any news?
A crazy high total again, as if there aren't enough good plays in this slate. Now we have another just loaded game with crazy high team totals here. Yeah, on Washington side, we got Gary Neal with his leg injuries out at least 2 more games. Nene and Allen Anderson rested last game, which opened up a better security for Markieff Morris as the starter. They're both expected to play because they rested last game. So I do expect Markieff to start again. Real quick on the Wolves side, Kevin Garnett's ruled out with the sore right knee. And big news that could impact this a lot is Gorgui Dieng missed Tuesday's practice and for personal reasons and can be considered questionable for this one.
Cool. Let's start on let's start on Washington's side. I think that there is kind of one really, really obvious cash play, and this is a lot of kind of intriguing tournament plays. I'll see if you can guess the obvious cash play.
I mean, I think it's John Wall.
Oh, I was going Keefe.
Markieff? Yeah, okay. So Markieff on DK, 5,500. I'm fine with. I mean, I'd like Nene to be out, but I think Markieff's got that starting spot. He looked really good, 16, 13, and 5. So. Yeah, I'm with you. I think he's a cash play. I do love John Wall a lot in this one, though. I mean, look at the team.
That's fair. Yeah.
John Wall kind of falls in line with, we have, I don't know, I'm losing track of how many expensive, high-priced.
10K guys we love, right? Yeah, they're all in great
matches. Which, no surprise. Obviously, you like those guys. They're expensive for a reason. But in these matchups, this is the Wolves' defense is just really, really bad.
Yeah. So maybe load up on a lot of these guys. I think John Wall, you're right, is great in cash. Gortat, maybe his price.
Tougher matchup, but yeah.
Yeah, he's still got to go against Towns. If there's a decent part of the defense, it's Towns.
Right.
But Beal's interesting to me. I don't really love him. He's kind of in the no-play zone for me. I don't really love the floor or ceiling here. So it kind of I don't mind. Obviously, I love Keefe and Wall, and I don't mind some Porter actually.
Otto Porter, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
So Beal's in a spot where he's kind of fallen victim to scheduling. Yes, island game for the Wizards, but I'm not going Beal until he starts, and we see him kind of play 34 minutes or 33 consistently. So I'm with you that he's kind of in that no-play zone as far as his minutes aren't enough of upside. He has to really tear it up off the bench to offer value, and it's just not safe enough. So, I like the spot for him, but I just want to see him start or even play more minutes.
Right. On Minnesota's side, obviously, if Jang's out, I think it makes Towns really, really interesting. I think he's kind of interesting in general. He's been a little up and down lately. I mean, the dude is like 18 or 19 years old, so it's to be expected. But
he's like 13. He's 13.
Yeah, ridiculous.
I think he's a very strong play for sure, especially if Gorky's out. I think
he'll
huge.
play huge minutes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but the rest of the guys are the ones that are trouble for me. Towns is an easy guy. If you want to go on, that's fine. I think there might be a little better plays. If you want to go to White a little bit cheaper, I'm fine with that. But the rest of these guys are the ones that I can't really get super interested or excited about. Rubio, Wiggins, and LaVine. I think it's okay. Yeah, LaVine would be the guy I'm excited about, but
I think LaVine on FanDuel at 5,200. So he's slowly crept up, but very slowly. I think he's still underpriced. Given this high total, I think a 5,200 play there is pretty solid. So I don't mind him. And I'm fine with some Rubio tournament exposure for sure, and Wiggins tournament exposure as well.
Any like small tournament exposure? I know this is like
Baz.
Yeah, some Bazzi is like a 4
absolutely.
in the in if Jang sits.
Oh yeah, if Jang's out, Baz is only 4,100. Honestly, I'd look at him like in cash. I'd look at him pretty hard, but I'd expect him to kind of play pretty big minutes here. So strong tournament play though, Baz if Jang's ruled out, and I think he enters the cash realm.
Fair. Yeah.
We'd probably see like a Adrian Payne start, but I think it'd kind of be like a spot.
Bazzi would play. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't really want Payne if he draws the start anyway.
No, you don't. Yeah, Bazzi is the guy. Okay. Let's keep on moving here. 2 more games. LA, the Lakers. We have both LA teams playing. Lakers are playing Denver tomorrow. Over under is 211.5. Denver is 7-point favorites. Kick to you for news and notes.
Yeah, Kobe. So the Lakers are on back-to-back. They're playing tonight, being Tuesday. Tonight's Tuesday, yeah, for sure. So Kobe with a sore right shoulder was ruled out tonight. We could consider him questionable for tomorrow, but that's something to monitor. Definitely shakes up a few things. It solidifies D'Angelo Russell is probably a stronger play. And then we got the Jordan Clarkson stronger play and the Lou Williams probably tournament play. Maybe cash if he's cheap enough on FanDuel. And then on the Nuggets side, we got Emmanuel Mudiay, probable with left calf tightness. And then a decently big injury news here is Kenneth Faried, questionable with a lower back injury.
Yeah, that is fairly big. Let's start on LA. And honestly, I think that you kind of like just in your injuries, you kind of ran through Kobe's out, so Clarkson and D'Angelo are really interesting here. The matchup is good. I think D'Angelo is really well priced. He's been playing well lately at 5'8". I think he's cash playable for sure. Clarkson is a little more expensive, especially on DK. His floor is a little bit lower for me. So I think he's tournament only. How do you feel about those guys? And I guess we could throw Julius in the conversation as well. Those are the guys you want, with maybe a little Lou here and there.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed, Clarkson, Russell, Lou, and Randall's interesting. I love the matchup for him for sure. Honestly, if Fareed's out, I think Darrell Arthur's a better defender overall than Faried, but maybe given Randall's skill set, I think he can kind of eat in this game pretty hard. So I'm not opposed to him in cash. 6K on FanDuel. I think it's fine going against Denver, but on the back-to-back, I think Byron might stretch that bench a little more, but he did kind of guarantee minutes for these young guys the rest of the season. So I think they're fine plays, especially if Kobe's out. Kobe out being, that's a big thing, I think. If he's in, I might try to go to this game if he's in. One last hurrah for Kobe here. And then, touch up real quick on Anthony Brown. It's just kind of a spot starter. Not really a guy you want to go if Kobe's out. Just don't worry about him starting. And that's probably it on the Lakers side.
Cool. Let's move on to Denver. The guy that we were obviously really interested in lately is Will Barton with the Gallo injury news. He struggled last game, but I think his price is still really low at a position of scarcity. He's 6K on DK.
6K on FanDuel too.
Yeah, so I think that he is a pretty good bounce back candidate. I'm fine with him in cash.
Oh yeah, I'm fine with him in cash. We brought it up on our last pod to be kind of hesitant with these Nuggets guys with Gallo out because it's a tough matchup against Memphis. It's not an easy spot for a lot of these guys. But the Lakers, it's kind of the exact opposite.
Right.
I'm totally fine with rolling Will the Thrill in cash. I'm not going to let last game interfere with my judgment on his usage rate, increase minutes. Pretty much everything's trending up to him, and obviously the matchup is fantastic here.
Yeah, agreed. So let's talk about Fareed, because if he's out, I think that you're right, is interesting, but honestly, I think it's a nice spot to maybe fade some guys. I think people might get a little cute.
Fancy with Darrell Arthur?
Yeah, I think Darrell Arthur is going to be a little too fancy. I get his price, and he's 3.9 on DK, so what he's got to hit is real low.
He's 3.7 on FanDuel. So, with him, if he draws the start, if Fareed is out, I'm kind of fine with him because it's kind of sets up as like you want some of these stars, these high-priced guys in your lineup.
Yeah.
Here's, Darrell Arthur inserted in the starting lineup against the Lakers. They're thin and who they use in the front court, kind of, especially when they decide to go small.
Yeah.
Darrell Arthur in their small ball lineup playing the 5.
Yeah, he does have a really low floor. But his price, you're right. If he gets a spot start, he's going to get 30 minutes. I mean, there's a good chance that even if he misses it, he only has like 10 DK points or something.
Yeah, and I'll say, even though he's more on DK than FanDuel, I kind of like him more on DK because you're in more of a need for those cheap guys. I mean, if you can find a guy under 4K on DK who's starting, I mean, in the video I just did, I rolled DJ Augustine in cash, and that was just like, I would never do that. But on DK, you're really hungry.
Have to do stuff.
I didn't even get Westbrook in there, so DK is a lot tougher. You got to work around, and it was not a good spot for DJ last game. Definitely not against Memphis, but it's kind of like, you kind of just need a guy that cheap to fill the rest of your lineup out sometimes. I think this is a much better spot for DJ Augustine. He only played 15 minutes last game, but the matchup kind of necessitated that a bit more than this one. So what about Gary Harris?
I mean, I think all these guys are interesting in tournaments for sure. I mean, just because I don't think we got like a great read on this team minus Gallo.
For sure. I don't think we did either. I think Gary Harris on FanDuel at 4,800. I like his aggressiveness. I like his usage rate with Gallo off the floor. So I'm pretty fine with him in cash on FanDuel at 4,800.
I'm not okay with him in cash, but I get it.
I like Barton more. So
I lean tournaments. I think Barton's the only guy in cash for me, with the exception. I do get how pricing is on DK. They Darrell Arthur, you kind of maybe have to go on DK. But
if it reads out, so that's something we might not know. It's possible.
Right.
But it's definitely something to monitor as far as a kind of a salary relief play on DK, where I think you should keep Darrell Arthur in the back of your mind, depending on Fareed's status. And then, I don't mind tournament exposure to Jokic like usual. I think you kind of want a piece of him.
Yeah, you do. You do, for sure. I wish King Joff was still a thing.
He still can be, I think. Yeah, I think he's still around. He can, offer that upside.
You know who isn't around, but I'm going to ask you about him anyway. JJ Hickson, do you have any status updates on him?
He's hanging out in Washington. He saw minutes last game. I think someone tweeted us when Hickson came into the game, a JJ Hickson alert, one of the Washington writers, SDO. We got some Hickson love. Nobody's asked if he's starting yet, I don't think, but I'm sure that'll come. All it takes is one Gortat injury, and then boom, there's JJ Hickson.
So what would you put the chances of him starting in this Denver-LA game at?
In this game, because he got waived and is in Washington now. I'd say like 15% probably.
Yeah, that's fair.
He could start for the Nuggets. It's always –
it's hard to go higher than that, but –
I'm being very conservative.
Yeah.
just playing it safe. I don't want to go crazy and say 40%, which he probably is closer to really, but I'm just kind of being safe with the 15% that Hickson will start for the Nuggets.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. Freed's out, so it's a great spot for Hickson.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to our last game, which I think is a game that we obviously have been kind of hinting at all podcast. So let's finally get to it. Oklahoma City at the Clippers. Good real-life game, good DFS game, good game all around. Total was high, as you would expect here, 220.5. And what's also really good about this high total is that it's a very close spread.
Very safe. I love that it's
Clippers are
in
one
LA.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, so the home court advantage, swinging the spread in favor of the home team.
Right.
Gaining a few points there. And it's a great game as well because the notable injury is Austin Rivers from his fractured left hand. It is hopeful to play.
So, wow. Yeah.
As if this game could get any better, that we might see Austin Rivers on the court. And then Luke Richard Mbamute is questionable with a left eyelid laceration, which sounds really – yeah, like that sounds so much fun. I might do that after this pod. I got some free time.
Yeah.
I want to maybe just lacerate my eyelid,
Yeah. Yeah.
But he does bring up, if for whatever reason he gets ruled out early, obviously it's the latest game of slate, we could see Jeff Green back in that starting lineup.
Yeah, which would be good. So let's now that we got news out of the way, let's go to OKC and kind of talk about these two studs. Obviously, we've been hinting at Durant, killing it lately, been great form. And DK, I think as much as they've kind of really been pricing up these guys and quick to move them up, I think he's still a little underpriced here. Like 10-2 compared to these other studs is actually like pretty cheap for Durant, right?
No, it's very, and just kind of watching him, the way he's played lately. I mean, obviously the stats show it as well, but he's been incredibly efficient. You could argue he was like the best player in that Warriors game. I mean, he was insane in that game. I mean, Curry one-upped him and had probably a better all-around game, but I mean, Durant is just really, really
very good.
I mean, he's just incredible. And the 220.5 total, a close spread, you don't have to worry about the blowout, at least going in. Obviously, hindsight, if it does turn blowout, but the chances are slim. So I think it's a very good spot, obviously, for Westbrook and Durant. There's not much you need to say other than, they're strong cash plays, both of them, but it's how do you get them in, especially on DK, and who do you sacrifice between all these other top guys like Harden. And, we got a lot of expensive guys here where you're on DK, you're probably only going to play one of them. So guys like Darrell Arthur matter a lot on DK when you want to get multiple of these guys in. On FanDuel, it's a little bit different. I think you have more leeway. You have more salary cap. It's a bit softer. So I think you definitely want one of Westbrook or Durant in your cash lineup.
Yep. Yeah, I completely agree. And I think Durant's the guy. I love Westbrook as the tournament option. I think he's an elite tournament guy. I mean, that's a hot take. He's a Westbrook. He can.
No, I lean him tournament too. Going against Chris Paul. Chris Paul's obviously a good defender here. So I usually lean Westbrook if I'm picking one of the two. But if you put in matchup and even salary, especially on DK, I lean Durant.
Yeah. Agreed. And I think most people are going to go that route, which I think makes Westbrook an even better play tournament-wise. Because
he had a triple-double almost at halftime last game.
Yeah. But I think his ownership is going to be actually fairly low for this spread and this total. And I think if you can get Westbrook, at a good ownership level, you got to go him. So I think this is a good tournament night to have more than the field of Westbrook.
I completely agree. I think you can have some tournament exposure to DeAndre Jordan and maybe some Ibaka. We've seen Ibaka in some of these high totals produce pretty full lines here, so I don't mind some of him. And his Cantor, we saw obviously destroy the Kings off the bench, but Cantor's more of a target of mine in games where I think this game could get out of hand, and this isn't really the one I'm looking at. So I'm not as high on Cantor as usual. So it's really the usual Russ tournament. Maybe I think we agree a little bit more cash oriented, and then Ibaka some tournament exposure.
Yeah, I agree. And then the Clipper side, obviously a good total and a good spread. And obviously, they're favorites, so I think there's some scoring here. But the guy that we're interested in, obviously, is CP3.
Yeah, and
playing really well lately, but his price is high, hard to get him in on DK.
yeah, it's 10-2 on FanDuel too, so it's definitely high. But I mean, it's just a great spot. He's obviously been playing, and he's been flying under the radar. They're playing a lot of home games lately. The late game of the night, they've been in some high spreads, especially to where Chris Paul hasn't really been, a must play, but he's still crushing. And this is like as close to a must play as you can get, given the game flow, the total, the spread.
Yeah.
So obviously a great spot for him. If you can't fit him in cash, I definitely want exposure to him. So
yeah, for sure. DeAndre's tournament only for me.
Yeah, I agree.
His price is good on DK. Obviously, all centers are, but his floor has been a little bit low lately. OKC's fairly decent with Ibaka and Adams, kind of whatever combination that they use, in these tough games. So I think he's tournament only. But yeah, I do like the Jeff Green call. If
Mba's out, we could possibly see Wes Johnson draw the start instead to kind of match up with Durant, maybe a bit more so on defense. So that's a possibility. So I think Jeff Green, I wouldn't look at too hard because this game's so late that Mba could play.
Yeah. True.
But on DK, with late swap, I think keep Jeff Green in the back of your mind in case he does draw the start in this one.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that means Jamal Crawford, maybe some. Yeah, it's massive. I think Jamal Crawford's some tournament exposure. I like him a bit more if Jeff Green draws the start as well. So Crawford kind of go back to being the main usage guy off the bench.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, 11:30 Eastern time game. Holy moly!
You'll be asleep by like first quarter probably.
Oh yeah.
Wait, 11:30?
Yeah.
No, 10:30.
No, it's 11:30.
What? I don't think so, man.
Is my computer just off here?
I don't know. I don't even know.
No, this is 11:30 Eastern time. Yeah. The slate starts at 8 o'clock, and the LA Denver game's at 10 o'clock, and OKC LA Clippers is 11:30. Let me check ESPN on my phone.
Hey,
this is great plotting right here.
How do people live on the East Coast? I could barely do it. Barely survive for 2 years there with how late games. Luckily I don't sleep. I eat Cinnamon Toast Crunch at 1 a.m. every night anyway, so just go on some basketball. But either way, this is a game.
Oh, no, it's 10:30. What the heck is – all right, my computer must just be wrong.
I told you. You're really bad with time, man. Me and Justin have talked about this when you change time zones.
Yeah. I know. I'm awful with time. Yeah, no, you're right.
It's all good.
Okay.
But,
yeah.
Let's
position rundown?
Yeah, let's do the position rundown.
Okay, let's do it. I will let you start with point guard because I know that you want to – at least we're going to rotate. I know you want to talk small forward.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. I think I know what you're hinting at. For point guard, Westbrook, obviously a very strong play overall. We kind of just mentioned him, touched up on him. If you're just listening to this segment, I guess you haven't heard, but we consider him a bit more of a tournament play and getting exposure to the Thunder. We'd rather go KD and Cash. He's a bit softer there. And Russ draws Chris Paul. Chris Paul himself, we like a lot in Cash, 9,800. It's just really hard to get, so you're probably going to be ending up not being able to afford him given some of these other options. It's fine if you do, of course. I think he's a cash option, but I think he's a stronger tournament option. John Wall, I think. Who do you like more between Paul and Wall? I think I like Chris Paul more in this one.
Too. Yep.
Okay, so Wall tournament play. Damian Lillard tournament play. He's expensive. Kyle Lowry, I think tournament play is cheap at 8,400, but obviously playing the slowest paced team in the league and a great overall defense. So limit him to tournaments. Rajon Rondo, we'll never know if he plays or not. He could be ruled out and play 48 minutes. I'd limit him to very little exposure, maybe some tournament, but not a great matchup for him. Kemba, I think he's a fine cash play, really. If you just cannot afford some of these top guys, he's $2K less, almost $2K less than Chris Paul, 1,700. So I like Kemba against Philly in cash. I like Drew a lot. I'm fine with him in cash, maybe more at FanDuel where you can afford him a bit easier. On DK, he's probably more of a tournament play. Obviously, with going against Houston, a really bad defense. Isaiah Thomas at 7,400, I think I'm fine with in cash. But this slate kind of makes up for a stars and scrubs type, so maybe Isaiah will be more of a tournament play for you. Mike Conley, Brian's really bitter about last game. I am too, but I'm over it now. I think he's a strong play. We've seen everybody pretty much torch the Kings defense, so I'm fine with him. More so on FanDuel where he's a bit cheaper. Derrick Rose, I don't even think we said his name, did we?
No.
Tournament exposure only, but not really on my radar too much. Reggie Jackson, he's kind of a piece of Detroit that will be very under-owned against the Spurs. Obviously a horrible spot, but he's underpriced, and we could see him and possibly Drummond as well. The pick and roll kind of having decent games there. Ish Smith playing a bit better lately, but not a great matchup. Maybe a little bit of tournament exposure. Same goes for Ricky Rubio, really high total. I don't mind tournament exposure to him. Jordan Clarkson enters the cash realm at 6K, I think on both sites as well. So if Kobe's out, obviously if Kobe's in, tournament only. And even if Kobe's out, a little bit more tournament only because you kind of mentioned his floor isn't as high as you'd like. D'Angelo Russell at a soft price, I'm fine with in cash if Kobe's out. If Kobe's in, it's a fringe cash play, but I'm actually probably fine with him if Kobe's in going against Denver, but would prefer him to be out. After that, we got, I don't mind Elfrid Payton tournament exposure, but they got CJ Watson and Jennings, so very limited there. Jared Bayless, if Michael Carter-Williams is out, I'm fine with the tournament exposure at just 4,700. Shelvin Mack, we both agree to fade going against Toronto. Patrick Beverley at 4,500, I think is very soft price. Playing against the Pelicans, I think he's going to be a cash game option kind of by default in his price, but not one that I'm realistically going to go. Point guard is loaded. Isaiah Cannon, if we have Hollis Thompson out and Cannon draws the start again, not a great matchup. I actually wouldn't expect him to start in this one, but at 4K, I wouldn't mind some tournament exposure. After that should be it. DJ Augustine, I wouldn't get too held up on last game. I still think he'll play decent minutes overall. So against the Lakers, at just 3,800, that's an incredible way to save salary. So on DK, if you want to throw some tournament lineups in with two of these studs, I think DJ is a guy you can kind of look at here. And that should be it for point guard.
Cool. We'll take over on shooting guard. At the top is Harden. He's a lot more expensive. He's 2K more than anyone else. 3K more than anyone else. I think he's a great cash game play, but I think it might be hard to justify. Or maybe it is because of positional scarcity. Maybe you want to go him just because you have the safety. I think Chris Middleton is fine. You kind of looking through this position breakdown right now. Going against Indy, he's at 7.5. He's the next most expensive guy. I think he's fine in cash. He's been great lately. Great in tournaments as well. DeMar is in this matchup only tournament. McCollum is in a really interesting matchup here. His floor is not safe enough for cash. At 7.3 on DK, is a little bit cheaper on FanDuel, but I think interesting spot here for tournaments. So I think that's fine. Fournier's out. I think that Oladipo is a pretty easy cash game play against Chicago at 7.3. Batum, I think, is in a really nice matchup here as well against Philly. Usually we don't have a lot of shooting guard cash options, but I think there's some decent ones here. Batum's only 6'9" on DK, underpriced, obviously. He's been struggling a little bit lately, but Philly, I think, is a nice spot to get out of that slump. Wiggins, I'm not super interested in. If you want some tournament exposure, that's fine, but I'm not going to go a ton. Monte, I think, is okay. He's a guy that I think I would look more in cash than tournament, but I don't really want to use him in cash, so I think that I will just not have much exposure to him. But he's fine. I think he's not in a great matchup. He's in an okay matchup, but he's probably appropriately priced. So you're just not really getting a value. So Monte is just kind of is what he is. Will Barton, I think, is a great play tomorrow. I think just ignore. I was mad at him and Conley, but you're right. You got to move on. Beal, we're not going to play till he starts. And kind of just moving through, Crawford, I think we're fine with in tournaments. Levine, fine in tournaments. Each one more, don't play that. Reddick on DK, I'm fine with the spread, and you get the 3-point bonus. Gordon, you like in tournament. Are you like in cash if Brow's out? I like him in tournaments if Brow's out. So we'll disagree there. Gary Harris, I think, is a little interesting in tournaments. I think I'll have limited exposure, but I think that you like him in tournaments if Freed is out. Lou Williams, Kobe's out. I think you have some exposure here and there too. And then kind of going down, Hazonia, your boy, we have to mention him. I think it's worth a little bit of exposure too here and there if Fournier is out. And I think that's kind of it. We're kind of bargain binning the not much here. So yeah, I'll kick to you small forward because obviously I think it's the position that kind of defines the slate.
You think? I don't know. This is crazy. All right, we just named like 80 players.
Yeah.
We're going to get some YouTube comments like, oh, you guys just named everybody on the entire slate. But, like, I don't know. It's just the way it works out.
You play everyone.
A lot of really good plays. Yeah, use our lineup builder and make 100 lineups. I mean, that's what I'm going to do. 200, yeah. 700. I play every tournament. All right, so small forward, let's go through this. Kevin Durant on DK especially, I think it's a very strong cash play at 10-2. If you're going to choose one of him or Westbrook on DK, I'd lean Durant because of price. Paul George, I think, is a great tournament play at 1,600, less than KD, kind of pivoting off him. Not a bad matchup against Milwaukee, but we could see them double him quite a bit like they did with Harden. Giannis, I think I'm fine with in cash. His floor is just incredibly high. It's a bit harder to justify, I guess, with Durant. Not too much more, but Giannis kind of is up there in terms of floor and upside, so don't mind him in cash overall. A bit of a more difficult matchup. Kawhi, we definitely like in cash. He's underpriced at 7,700 for sure here. Let's see. We got Jay Crowder. Don't mind some tournament exposure to him. He's been playing really well and kind of offers some good upside with steals, rebounds, and points. Trevor Ariza, I think, is in a great tournament spot again, kind of like last game. Playing against New Orleans, can rack up a pretty full stat line as you just saw. Matt Barnes, I think, is fine in cash, playing against Sacramento, the worst defense in the league. Covington, I'd limit exposure to. Obviously, he's a stronger play if Hollis Thompson's out. Some of this, maybe Okafor is out as well, but not the best spot for him. Otto Porter, don't mind some tournament exposure, getting a piece of that incredibly high total. I think 220.5 it was. Jeff Green, I think, is an interesting option, especially on DK with late swap. If Umba Amute is out and Jeff Green picks up that start, getting him at 5K, a starting player in that game. Caspi, probably, I mean, it's a tough spot. If he does draw the start over James Anderson, I think it makes it interesting at just 4,900, but not a spot I necessarily love him in going against Memphis there. Jeremy Grant, I think, is a strong play. If Okafor is out and Jeremy Grant starts at the 4 with Nerlens at the 5. After that, kind of as Pete was doing dumpster diving, maybe some Lance Stevenson, since Tony Allen's dead or something, going against Sacramento. This is a pretty good spot for Lance here, so I wouldn't mind some tournament exposure to him. Shabazz Muhammad, I think, is a very strong play if Gorgie Jang is out. Regardless of if Baz draws the start. I wouldn't expect him to. I'd expect Adrian Payne to draw the start, but that's more of just a spot start. And Baz, I think, would play a bit more minutes, especially with Kevin Garnett and Bielitsa still sidelined there. After that, really chasing down here. I don't see anyone else after that.
Okay. I'll hit power forward real quick and move on to center. We will finish up this long pod. DeMarcus Cousins at the top. He's expensive. I think he's in a good matchup. It's better than what DVP suggests. Marcus Gasol's not in. So 10-6, I think he's fine in cash. I can understand if you prefer to go some of these other higher studs. That's fine. But I do think you have to have a lot of them or as much as you can afford or get or whatever in tournaments. His upside here is pretty good. Brow, I think you have to have a piece of in tournaments if he ends up playing. Obviously, elite upside. I don't think you can go him in cash because of just kind of the injury situation. He's already questionable, and you just never know. So definitely monitor that. But if he's going to play against Houston, you want some tournament exposure to. Favors, I'm actually okay with in cash. I think we disagreed a little bit a little bit with that. But I think we could have some tournament exposure. I'm fine with cash, but whatever. And then we also disagreed on the next guy. Zebo, I'm not super interested in. You want him in cash. He's
On FanDuel.
On FanDuel, yeah. DK is not really interested in me. FanDuel, I guess he's a little bit cheaper. DK is 7K. Aldridge, really underpriced, 6'9", especially relative to ceiling, like we said. So I think that he's a really good tournament play here. Aaron Gordon, I think, is still underpriced. Really good matchup here against Chicago. We like targeting their front court, so both him and Vooch, I think, are really good plays. I think you could play him in cash if you want, but a really good tournament spot here. Jabari still underpriced as well, I think, a little bit, so I don't mind him in cash. I think it fairly tough matchup against PG, so I can understand, I guess, depending on whether PG guards Giannis or Jabari. I can understand if you want to limit your exposure, maybe just go him in tournaments, but I do think there's a lot of value at his price point, so I think he's fine. Nerlens is more tournament, just kind of the slate, but if Ja doesn't play, I think that he does offer a lot of upside in tournaments. Randall, I think, is a tournament play. Rhino is interesting. Ryan Anderson. If Brow's out, I think that he is a really, really kind of just easy cash play. He's kind of a mid-price point, so it's not going to cost you a lot. Easy source of points and floors. So if Brow doesn't play Ryan Anderson. Marvin Williams, I think, is interesting in tournaments. Same with Serge Ibaka in that really high total game. Markieff Morris is a guy kind of a little bit lower than Ryan Anderson, so that I think is a really nice cash play, especially if Nene doesn't play. And he gets to start. I think he might start anyway, and his minutes probably played well last game. So I think Keith is really interesting here. And then going down, it kind of gets ugly after that. Maybe you can go some Ed Davis in that high matchup game and some here and there tournament exposure. Darrell Arthur, we talked about, extensively. We think that he's okay if Free doesn't play, just because of the salary relief he gets you. He's just so cheap. So I think we're fine with that in cash, especially on DK where the pricing's tight and you want to get in KD. So we're fine with that. Freed is out. But I think he's more – he's risky for sure, but you might have to play him. Other than that, there's not much here. Trey Lyles is pretty cheap, so Booker doesn't play. He's kind of a sneaky play off the bench at 3,400. But other than that, there's nothing there. Rashawn Holmes might be a thing at 32 again, but I would avoid that. Other than that, that's it for power forward.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
We've named so many players. I feel horrible. All right, yeah, we'll go through center really quick. Powell, I think tournament exposure 8,700 is fine. Karl Anthony Towns getting a piece of that high total. I'm fine with in cash. It's just kind of hard to pay up when you got guys a little bit less that I'm just as comfortable going. So more of a tournament play there. Nikola Vucevic, I'm fine with in cash. Again, getting a piece of that Bulls front court I think is great at 8K. Vuce a little underpriced there for me. I like him in cash. More probably a realistic tournament play. Andre Drummond we like as a sneaky tournament play here, especially if – well, actually I disagreed with Bryan. This was our the YouTube commenter. We're disagreeing. I don't want too much Drummond. You do. It's just the way it is. Fair. DeAndre Jordan I think is a fine tournament play, especially in that high total. Dwight is, I think, the strongest cash play for me on DraftKings at 7,600 going against the Pelicans. Gortat, I think, is a interesting tournament play. Not the best part of Minnesota we want to attack, but definitely a high total there. After that, let's see. Some guys that just fall into the zone I don't want much exposure to. Jokic against the Lakers with kind of Hibbert playing. I think Jokic has the upside. I mean, Hibbert's not going to play full game or anything, but Jokic kind of has upside here to have a big game, so I don't mind some tournament exposure to him. After that, let's see.
Yeah, for as much as center has been good this year, I think this is not necessarily a slate to go double center maybe.
Yeah, that's it really. Just don't go Ajinça in cash for the rest of his career. Yeah,
I think there's clearly Vooch or Howard. I think are kind of
cash. I think is pretty cut and dry, especially on DK. I'm not going to overthink that. I'm going to definitely go. Yeah, probably Dwight. So.
Yeah, agreed. Cool. All right, we will end it. Sorry, for going long, but obviously this is why we have our Position Crickets podcast. podcast, where if you want to listen to a quick version, you can. So as always, good luck. And you and Pete will be talking to everyone on Thursday.
Yeah, we'll be back for the Thursday slate. Good luck on this slate. Just remember, this is a huge slate, lots of guys to go. So I definitely spend a little bit more time than usual making sure you have a solid lineup from top to bottom in cash.
For sure. Cool. All right. Well, we'll end it there. Good luck, and talk to you guys in a couple of days.